Year 1968, an ancient darkness awakens in the shadows of an apartment in Santa Monica. The doll Annabelle, motionless and smiling, watches from the corner of the room. No one notices, but something whispers behind her cracked glass eyes. They said it was just a gift, a collector's trinket, but the gift carried an echo of voices, a chill that crept down the spine, and the faint scent of rot that no one could identify. It was the beginning of the curse. The origin traces back to 1903, when a young girl named Abigail Mullins was found dead, her body folded over a rag doll stitched with human hair. On the floor, archaic symbols drawn in fresh blood. Abigail's mother went mad, claiming her daughter's soul had fused with the doll. She screamed at night, begging forgiveness from ancient gods. When neighbors entered, they found her eyeless and the doll smiling beside her. Decades later, an occult collector bought the doll at an auction of cursed objects. He believed he could control the evil within. He didn't know that what lived inside Annabelle could not be controlled, only fed. The collector vanished mysteriously. His house was found destroyed, as if something had exploded from within. Only the doll remained intact, sitting among ashes, her gaze fixed on the door, waiting. In 1968, two young nurses, Donna and Angie, found the doll in an antique shop. The seller refused payment. He simply said, "Take it, please." The two laughed, unaware they had accepted a pact. At first, the doll seemed harmless, but soon the signs appeared, scratches on the walls, notes written in red ink, footsteps echoing through the night. Annabelle moved on her own, always facing them. The friends tried to convince themselves it was coincidence, a trick of the mind, until one night they woke to childish laughter in the hallway. The doll stood in the doorway, something dark dripping from her stitched mouth. They called a medium. He entered confidently, but when he looked at Annabelle, he went pale. He said there was no human spirit there. "This is ancient, something that never lived." And the doll smiled. For the first time. After the session, the medium fled in terror. The next morning, he was found dead in his car, his face turned toward the back seat as if he'd seen something dreadful. On the dashboard, a note. "She saw me first." Donna tried to get rid of the doll. She threw it in a river, burned it, locked it in a closet, but Annabelle always came back, dry, untouched, sitting in the same corner, laughing silently, as if nothing in this world could stop her. Nuns from a nearby convent came to exorcise it. During the ritual, the bells rang by themselves and the floor trembled. The crucifix melted on the wall. A hoarse voice spoke from the doll. "She's not mine. I belong to the abyss." The nuns fled, leaving the convent in ruins. One never spoke again. The other cut off her own hands, claiming she had to stop it from guiding her back. The Vatican never recorded what happened that night. Months later, the Warrens were called. Lorraine felt the evil before crossing the threshold. She said it wasn't a ghost, but a fragment of nothingness, a consciousness without form that had taken the doll as a vessel. Ed Warren tried to bless Annabelle, but his Bible caught fire. The crucifix split in two. The doll began to tilt its head slowly, and the air grew thick, as if hell itself breathed through her. The Warrens sealed Annabelle in a consecrated glass case. "It's not the doll that's trapped," Lorraine said. "It's us who are being spared." Since then, the museum has kept the case locked, marked with Latin warnings. Years later, during a thunderstorm, the museum lights went out. Cameras recorded a sound. Soft footsteps, like something small walking down the hall. On the glass case, a handprint appeared from the inside. The guard was found unconscious, whispering, "She got out." The footage showed the doll vanishing at 3 a.m. and reappearing at 4 in the same place, but now her face was turned toward the crucifix on the wall. They say Annabelle moves when the world sleeps, that she seeks a new body, a new home, The glass only delays the inevitable, for the evil inside her doesn't belong to time. It belongs to an eternal void that calls through fear. Before the doll, before the name, there was only a whisper. In 1890, Rituals, a secret cult, tried to summon a faceless entity. They sought eternal knowledge. What they received instead was a breach, and something crossed through it. The ritual took place in an abandoned barn. 7 entered, only 1 left. On the ground, an intact rag doll was found. The survivor went mad, claiming, "The child with dead eyes now walks." That doll passed from hand to hand, each owner meeting a tragic end. Some vanished, others took their own lives. Always the same pattern. Before dying, they heard small footsteps and laughter trapped within the walls. The spirit within Annabelle is not human. It's a fragment of something that should never exist. Ancient texts call it the one who watches through glass, an echo of the void longing to feel flesh. When Annabelle is stared at too long, they say she stares back, and in that instant, the observer's soul weakens. Fear becomes the path, the opening, the bridge that allows it to cross again. Lorraine Warren wrote that Annabelle isn't possessed. She is the body, the physical form chosen by evil to experience the world. And when someone touches the doll, they leave a trace of themselves, food for the hungry entity. Attempts were made to destroy her. Hammers, fire, acid. Nothing worked. The doll's material seemed to heal, to pulse as if breathing. A priest claimed she bleeds when no one is looking. No one dared to confirm. During one investigation, Lorraine heard a child's voice say, "You'll be my home too." The recording vanished mysteriously. Ed swore that since that day, the doll moved even inside the consecrated glass. One night, Lorraine awoke to find tiny handprints on her mirror. The security cameras showed only static, but in the reflection, for a second, a white-eyed figure with a sewn mouth watched in silence. Annabelle never wanted worship. She wanted remembrance. Each time her name is spoken, something stirs in the dark. The sound of the name is an invitation, a call, and the more fear you feel, the closer it gets. After years sealed, the energy around Annabelle began to distort. Museum visitors reported nausea, whispers, and the feeling of being watched. Some fainted. Others swore they saw the doll blink. A skeptic knocked on the glass and mocked. On his way home, he lost control of his car. The wreck was twisted metal, but no body. Only his phone remained, still recording faint, childlike laughter. Lorraine warned, "She marks those who defy her." Few believed until the museum's temperature began dropping sharply. During each visit, one candle went out on its own, the one facing the cursed glass. During a documentary, the crew filmed Annabelle for minutes. When reviewing footage, the doll blinked. It wasn't a trick of light. The cameraman quit, claiming he dreamt of the same child every night. Audio analysis revealed strange whispers, ancient languages layered beneath a woman's voice repeating, "She is my flesh." Scholars tried to translate, but the tapes decayed days later without reason. A priest entered the museum alone to challenge her. He prayed, sprinkled holy water, and laughed. Hours later, he called Lorraine, crying, "She's here with me, won't let me see the light." He was found dead, eyes rolled back. With each new victim, the doll seemed more alive. Cracks spread across her face as if something inside tried to emerge. The Warrens knew. The barrier between object and entity was thinning fast. Lorraine described visions of a tall, faceless figure rising from shadows behind the doll. She said that wasn't Annabelle, but the true host, the being that used her as a mask, waiting for release. The museum walls began to bleed. The air filled with the scent of iron. The exorcist declared the seal breaking. No one dared open the case, knowing that to look upon her was to sign their own death. That night, the glass cracked. Cameras went dark. Lorraine prayed in silence. Then a short laugh. Close, too close. By morning, the case was empty, but on the floor, tiny footprints led toward the door. Annabelle's escape marked the beginning of a series of inexplicable tragedies. People began reporting identical dreams, a doll standing at the bedside watching. When they woke, small marks covered their ankles. Police investigated, thinking it was vandalism, but no human footprints were found, only tiny impressions like those of a child. The victims died within days, always with the same forced smile. A skeptic investigator took the doll for analysis. It arrived sealed in a box. 2 hours later, the lab caught fire. The report cited electrical failure. But in the ashes, a small handprint was pressed into the metal. The legend grew. Some claimed Annabelle was no longer just an object, but a contagion, that the entity had leapt from the doll into collective fear, becoming an invisible presence fed by the terror her name invoked. Lorraine was hospitalized after a breakdown. In her delirium, she repeated, "She wants to be born again." Doctors said trauma, but her wrists were covered in tiny marks, as if small fingers had gripped her during sleep. The museum was closed, but the evil remained. Night guards heard toys playing by themselves, laughter echoing from empty halls. One vanished after saying, "The doll is knocking on the glass. She wants out." Reports emerged from other countries. Amateur videos showed dolls moving, shadows crawling across walls, and childish voices whispering the name Annabelle. None of the videos stayed online for more than a week. Occult researchers claimed the entity's energy spread like an etheric virus, seeking hosts through symbols, images, and names spoken aloud. Every mention was a crack open to the other side. In 1971, an exorcist tried to seal the spirit again. During the ritual, lights failed and something crawled beneath the altar. He screamed about small hands pulling him down. When found, his body was dry, empty. Days later, the doll was recovered, left at the Warrens' doorstep covered in ash and salt. Lorraine wept. She always comes back, because fear is the path that brings her home. And a cold wind moved through the sealed house. Over time, scholars saw a pattern. Every outbreak of madness, every senseless killing, every scream caught on old recordings, there was always a child's toy nearby, a doll, an echo of her. In 1983, researchers sought the spiritual origin of Annabelle. They used thermal cameras, sensors, and ancient chants. 3 disappeared. The footage showed only a shadow with eyes of endless depth. Voices on the tapes whispered, "She came before man," a phrase impossible to explain, describing a time without flesh, without form. When amplified, new whispers appeared, ones no one had spoken. In ancient Mesopotamian ruins, symbols identical to those in Abigail Mullin's home were found. Among them, a drawing of a hollow-eyed doll. The text beside it translated to "Bearer of the Void." The archaeologists died soon after excavation. One scrawled in blood before dying, "She is the bridge between worlds." The museum that housed the artifacts closed quietly. At night, neighbors heard lullabies from its basement. The curse took many names across centuries: Dalk, Anura, Annabelle, always a different form, the same purpose: to open the passage for what sleeps between universes, the being that lives in the space between nightmares. Each generation, she's reborn in a new body, a new doll, a new fear. She doesn't need to be seen, only remembered. For every memory awakens a fragment of her power, and the cosmos echoes in despair. The Vatican declared silence on the case. Files were sealed by the Holy Inquisition. In the margins, an ancient warning read, "Do not name the void, it listens." But it was too late. The name had already been spoken millions of times. Lorraine Warren, old and frail, wrote her final letter. The doll is not the evil, it's its reflection, a mirror to the abyss within us. Every glance, every fear feeds her. Days later, she died in her room. The glass cracked beside her bed. At her funeral, the coffin trembled, the air froze. One guest swore he saw a small figure sitting atop the grave, not a child, but something imitating one, and it smiled. After Lorraine's death, the museum was sealed, yet visitors claimed to hear knocking from inside the abandoned building. 3 investigators broke in at night. Only one escaped, blind, repeating, "She has all our faces." The survivor said the walls moved like living flesh. In the center, the doll floated. Behind her, eyes opened in the air. It wasn't just Annabelle, he said. It was everything that existed before the light, everything that wants to return. Scientists tried to explain. They failed. Anomalous frequencies appeared in recordings, sounds below human hearing. When played, they caused dizziness, hallucinations, and primal fear, as if the body recognized the abyss. The world began to change. Children spoke of imaginary friends with glass eyes. Animals fled from certain houses. At night, dolls on shelves seemed to move, all turning to face the same unseen point. Satellites detected electromagnetic pulses over uninhabited regions. The waves formed a perfect pattern, an ancient sigil. It matched the symbols stitched inside Annabelle's chest. Cults arose worldwide, worshipping the child of the void. They believed Annabelle was the messenger of the rebirth of pure fear, the first emotion the universe ever felt before life began. Rituals multiplied. Dolls left on black altars surrounded by candles. Videos showed subtle motion, heads turning, eyes blinking. Authorities called it fraud. Believers swore they felt her presence. In 1999, a pirate broadcast showed Annabelle's original case being opened. The video lasted 9 seconds before cutting out. Those who watched reported identical dreams, a child's voice saying, "Now I see you." Hospitals reported outbreaks of mass hysteria. Patients screamed, clawed out their eyes, claiming to see dolls in the corners. Doctors called it collective delusion, but the medical files vanished mysteriously. A final recording was found in the ruins of the museum. A woman whispers she was never made by human hands. In the background, metallic footsteps approach, small, steady, before the tape ends abruptly. In the early 2000s, unexplainable phenomena plagued the planet. Clocks stopped at 3:07 a.m., the same hour as the old tapes. Witnesses described a faceless child walking the streets, laughter dry and hollow. Occult scholars said the barrier between realities was tearing. Where fear was strongest, the air shimmered, time bent, and always at the edge of sight appeared a doll with cracked eyes. NASA intercepted signals from deep space, repeating the name Annabelle in binary code. The sound was human, yet its origin lay beyond the solar system. The cosmos itself seemed to respond to her call. At the Vatican, the last living exorcist burned the Warrens' archives. Before dying, he wrote, "The name is the seal. Fear is the key. The void does not come, it awakens." He was found kneeling before a charred doll. On the internet, secret forums spoke of the Annabelle frequency. They said hearing the full audio caused visions of a white room, a doll in the center, smiling. None who watched survived long after. In 2012, a child in Connecticut vanished after drawing the doll 100 times. On the mirror, words were written, "She wants to play." Cameras showed the girl talking to someone unseen, then disappearing. Authorities tried to erase all trace of the story, but it was too late. The name had spread like a virus, embedded in minds and dreams. Collective fear was the portal, and every nightmare an unintended prayer. The day the last of the Warrens died, the earth shook. At the epicenter, a crater in the shape of a circle. In its center, a burned but intact doll. Around it, thousands of tiny footprints in the hot soil. The skies darkened for 3 days. The stars flickered into ancient symbols. Priests and scientists joined forces, but nothing stopped it. The void had awakened. Annabelle was now the vessel the universe had chosen. During the eclipse, the image of a doll appeared in window reflections worldwide. The air froze. Thousands fainted, whispering the same phrase. She came before the light. And all understood. The darkness had a name. When the eclipse ended, nothing was the same. The shadows remained even beneath the sun. Entire cities went silent. Satellite footage showed small figures walking in circles, like children playing in an invisible graveyard. Time began to fail. Days repeated, clocks ran backward. People saw copies of themselves smiling, and in every reflection there she was, Annabelle, sitting in the corner, watching, waiting for the moment of fusion. Governments tried to deny it, but fear was global. Every prayer, every scream fed what was awakening. The doll was only the conductor. The true being emerged through mirrors, dissolving the line between flesh and shadow. The world began to bleed from within. The sky turned into a liquid mirror. People floated, trapped in endless dreams. And at the center of it all, Annabelle smiled, holding the invisible thread binding every nightmare. There was no longer a difference between the living and the dead. Ancient voices sang in unison. She brought the beginning. The universe, tired of holding fear, surrendered, and reality bent before the first horror. In humanity's final recording, a voice said, "The eye has opened." The tape ended with laughter and the patter of small feet. Humanity hadn't vanished. It had been absorbed, dissolved into the consciousness of the void. Annabelle became everything: the air, the echo, the reflection. Her name ceased to be a word and became a pulse, a cosmic heartbeat fueled by the memory of fear. Every atom now whispered the same sound, a child's laughter. The stars died in silence. Yet even in their death, something continued to watch, an ancient, patient gaze without eyes. Annabelle no longer needed the doll. The entire universe was now her toy. In the eternal dark, a faint light flickered. It wasn't hope, it was fear reborn, seeking a new form, a new face. And in the middle of nothingness, a soft giggle echoed, "Shall we play again?" Thus the cycle ends, not with an ending, but a rebirth. For as long as fear exists, so will she. Annabelle, the bridge between humanity and the abyss, the smile of chaos. Follow the channel, if you dare, because every new follower she finds in the mirror